Olá, pessoas. Como é que vocês estão? Aqui reunido para jogar esse joguinho que a gente já tinha começado. Eu, na realidade, eu não lembro o que aconteceu. É isso. É isso.
Midnight each day.
On Valentine's night,
Time as you know it freezes.
20 minutes past 10.
Keep up, Doctor.
Thinks we're going to smother her in her sleep.
I'm a grave digger, Doctor.
I was at home,
David is my husband.
all on my lonesome.
Stabbed him with a steak knife. Nothing changes.
I'm a qualified angel of death.
When I'm dancing,
You get this day over and over.
Hilda,
I black out,
I don't think she's got long.
And Laurie just
naked on the beach.
Hannah.
Is that it for today?
Tá. Eu não lembro mais de nada. Deixa eu ver aqui minhas notas. Tá. Bryce says Nathan was with a family stayed on Valentine's Day. Bryce asked what would do if I have an extra hour. Tá. Bryce é o cara. É aquele rapaz aqui, esse aqui. Isso, que é o coveiro. Beleza. Tá. Ellen é a enfermeira, né? Que é acusada de roubar alguns pingentes, entre eles um pingente de uma das últimas pacientes dela. Mariana é a que acorda pelada na praia, pelo que eu entendi. Tá. Dr. Dekker was killed num dia de São Valentino. Eu deveria perguntar aos pacientes onde eles estavam nesse dia. Tá. Erika. Tá, beleza. Vamos lá.
So, should I get a solicitor or shall we try and talk it out with him?
Como você está?
Hey, you. Thanks for helping me with this grief thing. I'm not sure I have it though.
Tá, ela não está sofrendo de griefing, né? Grief quer dizer luto.
I don't really know where to start. I feel a bit numb. Maybe we should just talk about him.
Tá. Como o Dr. Dekker era?
It hadn't even been a year. He was a quiet, solitary man. A good listener, as I suppose you'd need to be. His confidence did grow as time wore on, but that's what you'd expect after you've fitted in. I mainly miss our chats. He used to work late with me and tell me things about the patients, things that I probably shouldn't have heard, but did. What do you think of the patients? Nah, perhaps you shouldn't say. You can ask me. Go on, I'll tell you what I think.
Tá, ela fala que o Dr. Dekker, ele meio que conversava sobre os pacientes com ela, ele não deveria fazer isso. E ela falou que eu poderia perguntar sobre eles, que ela falaria. Qual é a pessoa que mais é estranha? Quem tinha sessão no dia de São Valentino?
On Valentine's Day, Dr. Dekker had a session with Claire Castleford at 11 and that nurse, Elin, at 3. Everyone else cancelled. You should see this place Christmas Eve. I was at home though, so I don't actually know who came in. Dr. Dekker did phone and ask me for Nathan's number. which is a bit strange.
Tá, então teoricamente é a Ellen, a tá, deixa eu lembrar aqui. Tá. Claire e a Ellen. Me conte sobre Claire.
Claire seems to be shaken by something. You know, I offer her drinks every time she comes in, but she always refuses them. It's as if she just wants to come in, get her session over with, and then run off to do something else. It's a bit rude, isn't it?
Tá. Claire é a mulher que tem um problema com o marido, né? Um minuto. Voltemos. Me conte sobre a Ellen.
Elin seems like a lovely person. I'm not really sure why she's here.
Certo. Ele falou do Nathan, né?
Oh, I just want to cuddle Nathan all up. He's such a mess. He's always in the same clothes. You know, he barely talks to me though. It's the same hello every time. He reminds me of Tom.
Quem é Tom?
Tom was a quiet mess, like Nathan. Youngish, in his early 20s. He taught piano, but he did have a strange hobby.
Tá. Qual era o hobby do Tom? Ela falou que o Tom era um menino de uns 20 anos, mas ele tinha um hobby estranho.
Tom liked to base jump. That's basically falling from a huge building or mountain and pulling your parachute before you hit the ground. He started to think he could fly. Dr. Dekker tried to talk him out of it, but Tom had to prove his point. So one day, Tom decided to base jump without a parachute.
What?
Can you guess what happened?
Tom morreu?
He did die. He was hit by a rock from further up the mountain. He never got to fly. Nathan thinks he knows what his problem is too, but if he's not careful, he'll get hit by that rock. I wish I'd said goodbye.
Tá, ela falando que Tom morreu. Ele foi acertado por uma... Há alguém que você gostaria de falar, de dizer adeus?
I wish I'd said goodbye to Dr. Dekker. It was so sudden. Here, then gone. He resigned anyway, but that's not the same, is it?
Ah, ele pediu... ele pediu demissão? Por que Dr. Dekker resigned?
Dr. Dekker resigned shortly before his murder. No, it's sad. But doctors come and go, and only poor Jaya remains. I've got his resignation letter somewhere. You know, I do all the hiring and firing around here. Well, Professor Alderby and the Trust technically do that.
Ah, interessante. A gente tem uma prova. Please accept. 11 de fevereiro.
Nothing, of course.
Tá. Professor Alderby.
Professor Alderby is a trustee. Did I not mention that?
Vou colocar hint aqui nela. What's Bryce's story?
I've got no idea what you're talking about. Sorry. I think Bryce has a lot of misdirected anger. I don't think I like him that much. You know, sometimes when things overrun, he's outside waiting for you, and he stares at me as if he's undressing me with his eyes. You know, he's not the first person that's done that, but still, you know, it feels worse coming from him.
Bryce é o Gravedigger? É, tá. Me diga sobre Mariana.
Is a special girl. You know, there's something about her that just makes you want to follow her. Maybe that's what a trendsetter looks like.
Por que você trabalhou até tarde com o Dr. Dekker?
We'd work late together on all sorts of things. He was preoccupied with finding patterns in patients, trying to find some kind of order.
Falando que queria encontrar alguns padrões. Que padrões o Dr. Dekker queria verificar?
Mainly, he was searching for a common experience the patients might have had. That's what led them to his office. He'd study everything, even the referral letters.
Cartas de referência?
Yes, letters, parking tickets, holiday destinations. You know, I find those referral letters. He was sure there was a pattern in them.
Tá, ele achava que tinha algum padrão entre elas.
I think we should get a solicitor. I know the perfect firm. I'll do it all. Don't worry about it. And that's why we've got insurance for these kinds of things anyway. But the cheek of it.
O que aconteceu com o copo do Dr. Dekker em Aldernatesville?
It's smashed.
Ele quebrou.
So you watched the tapes. Gold star for you.
Tá, você leu as cartas. O que você pode me dizer sobre os pacientes do Dr. Dekker?
Most of the patients are suspects, according to the police. Almost all the patients are referred, and some of them are privates. But Dr. Dekker didn't introduce any of them.
Ok. O que a mãe do Ben tem a ver com isso tudo?
She was cuddling him like he was 6. He's 25.
Tá. Tá. Quem é você?
I'm Lacey Hendricks. So you don't know about me then?
Eu não lembro de você. No what? What?
Where to start? My next door neighbour in Jobson Hill, where I live, she was murdered. 80, and they diversion burgled her. But she was wise to it and started calling the police. They slit her throat with a bread knife. So I started a neighbourhood watch.
Ok, ela meio que me conte um pouco sobre sua vigia, né, na
It
vizinhança.
was me and Agnes. Everyone else thought we were overreacting. They want their throats cut, that's up to them, living in their bubbles. But Agnes. Poor Agnes.
Who the fuck is you, velho? Nem sabia que existia. Tá aqui, ó. Dr. Dekker ligou para Nathan no dia que ele foi assassinado. Eu deveria perguntar a Nathan. Tá. Deixa eu só terminar aqui com ela. O que você estava fazendo no dia de São
I
Valentim?
was at Henley Church. They had a service that ran right up till midnight.
Ele tá na igreja.
For us less fortunates without a love in their life. Well, now. Do you have someone, Doctor? Do you have a love in your life?
No.
Garden club. You should come with me one night. It's a lovely way to meet new people.
Caralho, tá dando em cima de mim mesmo. O que há de errado com a Agnes?
She went missing, and still is. And that's what people think. But it's not the truth.
Tá, e qual é a verdade?
It killed them. It looks normal enough. A smartly dressed, door-to-door saleswoman. I know because I heard my other neighbours shout at her. No Jehovah's! They think anyone knocking is a Jehovah. But she said she was selling double glazing.
What? Essa mulher é doida.
I don't know. I didn't answer the door. That's not to nowadays. But I watched her go to Agnes's. Poor Agnes. She let her right into her house.
Deixou quem, minha senhora? É, o que aconteceu com a Agnes depois que ela deixou a mulher entrar na sua casa?
I could only see the silhouette. It turned from a person into a, well, it looked like, I guess you'd call it
Uma medusa?
a Medusa.
What?
Snakes for her face. And Agnes just fell to the floor. A few minutes later, the woman left, smiling like the cat that got the cream. That was the end of Agnes.
Tá. Agnes. Você tem provas que a Agnes morreu?
I saw it with my own eyes. What more proof do I need? You're starting to sound like Dr. Dekker. He didn't believe me either.
É meio difícil acreditar em você, minha senhora. Me diga sobre o Dr.
I
Dekker.
didn't have much luck with him, like I said. He didn't believe me. He thought I was having a hallucination caused by the stress of my neighbor being so brutally murdered.
É, tá, o Dr. Dekker achava que ela tava
Where is
alucinando.
Agnes, though? I haven't found her, have they?
É, tá falando que o Dr. Dekker achava que ela tava alucinando, né, por causa da vizinha ter sido brutalmente assassinada. É.
They haven't found her because that thing ate her.
Tá, eles não encontraram ela porque
Or
aquela
made
coisa
her disappear or something.
ou fez ela desaparecer
Her
ou alguma
useless
coisa.
husband managed to survive unscathed, though.
O marido dela conseguiu escapar vivo. É, porque o marido da Agnes é inútil.
Don't know much about him, other than the fact that he looks at me like I'm 6 foot under every time we meet. He doesn't seem too bothered she's gone missing either. He did at first, when the police were crawling around. But now they've gone, that stopped. If I hadn't seen that thing eat her, I'd...
Tá. Ela tá meio que insinuando se ela não tivesse visto alguma coisa pegar ela, acharia que quem o fez foi o marido. Você suspeita do marido?
No. He's a Weasley little man who spends far too much time in his garden. It's probably like the National Trust back there. The constant digging and building, pruning and...
Tá, o cara vive num jardim. Cavando. É, Ron estava cavando um túmulo?
What a thing to say! Why would you say that? I kept watching the front door after that saleswoman had left and nothing. She didn't leave, and you can't get out the back since the council sold the garage block. Ron's a gardener, not a killer. Unless...
Unless...
Agnes said Ron was laying the foundations for a new greenhouse. You don't think...
você acha que Agnes está nas
I
fundações
need
da
to call
coisa?
the police. I need to call them now. But they won't listen to me. I tried to tell them about the monster, but they didn't believe me. They won't believe me about this, I promise you. Please, could you call them, Doctor?
Eu vou ligar pra
Thank you,
polícia.
Doctor. Now give me a pen and I'll write down the details for you. Don't you want to know why Dr. Dekker called me the leech lady?
Você não quer saber por que que o Dr. Dekker me chamou de mulher sanguessuga?
He said that I leech thoughts from people.
Diz
Suck
que...
'em right out of their heads.
Ele fala que eu,
And I can put thoughts in there too.
que eu sugo os
I'm not
pensamentos.
clever though, am I, Doctor? I mean, it's not as if I was having an affair with Ron and Agnes was in the way and needed to disappear. So I made this story up. I mean, what do you think I do for a living anyway?
Caralho, velho. What the fuck? Você vende?
Doctor, you're so good. We're going to get on just fine.
Caralho, eu acho que ela matou a menina. Ah, tá. Com ela já acabou. Quem é Jasmine, velho? Aparece um bando de gente aleatória que eu não conheço. Primeiro, deixa eu conversar com o Nathan. Deixa eu mandar aqui. What charity did Hannah donate her clothes to?
Hannah was forever giving to charity. Her things, her time, our money. I actually suggested a charity that Dr. Dekker mentioned called Mind Stretch Outreach.
O Dr. Dekker se encontrou alguma vez com a Hannah?
Hannah never met Dr. Dekker. She did donate to his charity once, though.
Ok. Mariana. Tá. Ellen. Acho que não tem nada. Claire. Não tem nada por enquanto. Bryce. Também não tem nada. Já é. Então não tem nada. E essa é uma pessoa nova. Quem é você?
I'm Jasmine. I don't come in that often. What happened to Dr. Dekker?
Dekker foi morto.
Oh. When? How? Sorry, you probably don't know, do you?
Tá, ela falou que ela não vem com frequência. Eu deveria contar para Jasmine que Dekker foi assassinado.
Ouch. I didn't really know him that well. I'm trying to remember what I was doing on Valentine's Day now.
Estou querendo lembrar do que eu fiz no dia do São Valentino. O que você estava fazendo no dia de São... Qual é o seu problema?
When you see a painting, it stands still. When I see one, it's moving. Like a mini film. Like little lines. But when there's a person in the painting.
Tá. Ela via pessoas nas pinturas? O que acontece quando existe uma pessoa na pintura?
They watch me.
Eles estão olhando pra ela, né? Normalmente desaprovando. Ok. Por que eles estão olhando de forma a desaprovar?
Because they don't think I know how to appreciate art. Because I'm too young.
Ok. Você aprecia a arte?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working in an art gallery. I love art. I love paintings. Like I said, they move for me.
Creepy. Como as pinturas se movem?
When I want them to normally. When I want to really get inside what's going on. But some paintings, I can't stop.
Algumas pinturas ela não consegue parar. Que pinturas você não consegue parar?
I've been working on portraits, at home, outside work. But my paintings aren't so good. Nowhere near Providence standard. I painted a man, Dorian. You know, after Dorian Gray.
Tá, ela pintou uma pessoa, estilo um homem, Dorian.
I wanted to try and capture someone aging, so I divided the face into thirds and painted a boy, his father, and his grandfather in each third. It was hideous. And it started talking to me.
Tá, falando que a pintura conversava com ela. O que Dorian disse?
I'm ugly. That I have no talent. Nothing will become of me. Is that true, Doctor?
Não, não é verdade.
I hear it so many times in that wretched painting. It's in my head. But thank you.
Tá. Deixa eu ver aqui. Me diga sobre o Dr. Dekker.
Shy. And then less so. When I told him about my problem, he told me to set fire to it.
Pediu pra queimar a pintura. Ok.
Yeah, he could have been more specific. I tried to set fire to Providence.
Providence?
At that time, I thought the only way to fix my problem was to set fire to the entire art gallery.
Caralho, ela
Paintings
colocou.
Didn't make it.
Colocou
Because
fogo.
I lost in press charges.
Colocou fogo na galeria de arte. Por que seu chefe não prestou queixa?
My boss, Petra, she's just lovely like that. Providence has gone through some tough times, and I've only been there a year. She invested her life savings, and it's still not making any money. Such a sweet lady. You'd do anything for her.
Ok. O fogo começou pelo dinheiro do seguro?
No. Why are you saying that? I don't even know if Petra has insurance.
Tá. Falou que não sabe. O quadro de Dorian foi destruído no fogo?
I already ripped up the painting. It screamed as I cut it. And now whenever I close my eyes, I can see it, hear it. I need the tablets, Doctor. I need them.
Tá. Que comprimidos?
The temazepam?
Temazepam.
Sleeping tablets.
Tá.
The ones you gave me last time.
Pegar uns chicletinhos aqui. Nossa, ela tava comendo uns remédios pra dormir. E o Dr. Dekker eu não te dei nada da última vez.
Dr. Dekker gave them to me.
Ah, tá.
They helped. I know it's in my head. I know paintings can't talk. What's wrong with me, Doctor? Why do I do this?
Eu acho que você falta um pouco de autoconfiança.
Thank you, Doctor. I'll think about that. And the prescription, please?
Viciada! Petra pediu pra que você colocasse fogo na providência?
Dr. Dekker told me to burn it. It was nothing to do with Petra.
Tá. Falou que Dr. Dekker. O que você estava fazendo no dia de São
We had a
Valentim?
display in the gallery based on Love Conquers All, so I had to work. Mainly it was a collection of giant hearts sat on things, but I ran into another patient, Bryce. I'd never really spoken with him before, but he's quite an art critic. I couldn't get rid of him until I finished work at 11. There's actually another guy takes over on the night shift. I'm not sure if he kept talking to Bryce though. Providence is open 24 hours.
Então ela encontrou com Bryce. Me diga sobre Bryce.
There's not much to tell. I knew he was a patient here. I'd seen him in the waiting room a couple of times. He likes art and talking and looking down here instead of up here.
Creepy. Tá, Bryce. Vou. Why does he think Dr. Dekker didn't want to know about his patients anymore? Por que que ele acha que o Dr. Dekker não se importava com seus pacientes?
Therapists are supposed to help you. For whatever reason, Dr. Dekker had given up the desire to cure my mind and instead wanted to make me more unstable.
Tá. Eu não vou conseguir tirar tudo deles. Eu acho. Eu não vou conseguir pegar hints. Deixa eu ver aqui. Eu acho que eu vou perguntar isso aqui. Deixa eu perguntar isso aqui. Nathan. Call you. In the day he was murdered. Tá. Tá, ele aparentemente falou sobre isso e eu não lembro. Tá, gente, eu acho que eu vou continuar.
David Hunt,
I can change my skin.
then Skins.
Dr. Dekker dated his patients.
I had a hot date
We went out for drinks.
I took photos of Jessica.
Dr. Dekker did phone
on Valentine's Day.
And ask me for Nathan's number.
There was a girl there.
Am I wrong to keep the locket?
I'm allowed to talk to her, aren't I?
He was preoccupied with finding
Photographs,
patterns.
rocking chair.
I haven't been back to the beach since
I had a bit of a shaky loop incident.
where I find something
I set fire
beautiful in the sea.
to Hannah's clothes in the garden.
I dug the grave.
I wish I'd said goodbye.
Dr. Dekker cursed me.
It didn't weigh enough to have a body in it.
Doctor, you surprised me. Reminds me of Officer Yates. Did I ever mention I had a special friend in the police force?
Tá.
It's not something you drop politely into a conversation. He's been doing some digging and he's found a couple things. There's a crime scene report that goes into all the gory details and another report that's about a patient you're seeing today, Claire. I'll put them both on the desk for you. And thanks for the grief counselling, by the way. It's really been helping, you know. I'm so glad you're here.
Ato 3. Estranho. Estranho. Muito estranho. Ok. Primeira coisa, vamos ver. É o report da prisão da Claire. Ô, cara. Ué. Oito de novembro. Ok. Agora o reporte. Por que eu não tô conseguindo? Behind the decks. Paper Spike. É um acessório de mesa de 15 centímetros na altura do peito do doutor. É no dia 14. Eu não consigo ver o resto do papel. Você viu o seu reporte de prisão?
It makes for interesting reading, doesn't it? I can tell you're dying to ask me about it. Fire away.
Eu gosto dela. O reporte diz que você foi presa por assassinato.
That's what it says. I can see you're confused. The police say that David is dead, fatally wounded when I stabbed him. The coroner says that David is dead. Everyone says that David is dead. There was even a funeral. But I know he's alive.
What? Não, essa mulher é doida. What the fuck? Tá. Como você poderia ter tido um funeral se o David não estava morto?
He's buried at Henley Church. You can go see for yourself. There's even a headstone. One of your other patients was a pallbearer. I never forget her face. You should ask him.
Qual paciente é um pallbearer?
Bryce was a pallbearer for David. He's also a gravedigger, I believe.
O gravedigger. Coveiro. Quanto você conhece o Bryce?
Smuggling a body out of a funeral can be difficult. Unless you pay the right people.
Nossa, ela tirou o corpo, mano. What the fuck? Que ele tava mexendo com os corpos. Beleza. Como você está hoje?
I've been to the lake house regularly, keeping an eye on David. I saw the girl again, the one I told you about. She was playing outside.
Caralho, velho. Você tentou intencionalmente matá-lo?
David wanted to have a talk about our relationship. Not something any married person wants to hear. He said he'd been with Iris for about a year and that he loved her. He said he didn't love me anymore. Which I know is a lie. You don't just fall out of love with somebody. I reacted badly. I grabbed the nearest weapon I could find, which happened to be the steak knife, and stabbed him with it. There was so much blood. I instantly regretted it.
Que louca.
So I fixed him.
Eu consertei ele. Como você
It
consertou?
was about a week later. I brought David back to life. Not with voodoo, not with virginal sacrifice. I just willed it to happen, and it did.
Ela trouxe ele
It's possible. But only
à
if you're
vida.
not buried.
Ah,
Says once you're in the ground, there's no coming back. But until then, you have a chance at resurrection.
tá, ela ressur... ela ressurgiu o Dave, né?
Yes, resurrection. But now that I've seen the results, I don't think there's anything holy about it. I think reanimation is more an accurate term.
Ela fez uma reanimação.
I'm an evil necromancer, raising things from the dead.
Tá, ela tirou algumas pessoas. What the fuck? Quais foram os resultados da ressurreição de David?
I think his brain was already decaying during the week that he was dead. Important bits. So when I brought him back to life, I didn't heal him completely. Just gave him life in the state he was in. I mean, he's hunting and killing things and trying to roast them on fires he can only light with matches, but that's about it. He's your basic Neanderthal,
Tá, ele tá
so
falando
I have a problem.
que ele é um Neandertal, que ele o cérebro dele tá meio zoado. Qual é o problema que você tem?
I'm being charged with murder because the police don't know he's still alive, and I can't get David to vouch for me for obvious reasons. I think it would raise quite a few more questions than answers, which is why I'm hoping that you'd be able to help me.
Te ajudar como, minha senhora?
Considering the circumstances, I'd be grateful if you could see your way to declaring me temporarily insane at the time of the murder. To lessen my sentence. Because I'm not a killer. But I can't prove otherwise. You don't still think I'm a killer, do you, Doctor?
Eu acho que você é uma assassina.
At worst, it's manslaughter. I didn't mean to kill him, I just stabbed him a bit. And although he was dead for a week, I brought him back to life.
Ela trouxe
Does
ele
it
pra
mean you won't help me? Was I temporarily insane?
Não, eu acho que você é completamente doida, mas...
I'm going to pretend that I didn't hear that. Let's have a few more sessions before you seal our fates. Or is it that you want something else? Like Dr. Dekker did.
Tá perguntando... O que o Dr. Dekker queria?
Dr. Dekker teased me mercilessly about my eligibility. He didn't believe I'd reanimated David. Once, he presented me with a dead mouse and commanded me to give it life again. I didn't, of course. It's not something I'd throw around lightly. He changed his mind about me eventually. And then he mentioned the girl.
Que garota? Que garota o Dr. Dekker mencionou?
He told me he'd locked up a girl in the basement of his house.
What?
Just for me. And he asked me to reanimate her. It was Iris.
Iris?
I said I couldn't reanimate something that wasn't dead, and he said that wouldn't be a problem. So I agreed. I just played along. I was hoping it wasn't real. I assumed it wasn't real.
Quem é
But
Iris?
Dekker gave me what I wanted. A temporary insanity diagnosis.
Dr. Dekker matou alguém? Quem é Iris? Caralho, agora fodeu. Você ajudou Iris?
It didn't happen. Dr. Dekker called me from his house to cancel. He was furious. He said that Iris had escaped and he blamed me for it. He said that I must have set her free after he told me about her. I knew it was all lies, anyways. He was obviously titillating himself by recommending me. He knew I'd never want to speak to Iris again, so I couldn't prove it either way.
Iris era a menina... Nossa, mas agora eu buguei. O que fez mudar a cabeça do Dekker?
Dr. Dekker asked if I could prove David wasn't dead, so I took him to the lake house. He saw that I was telling the truth. I can take you to see him too, if you like. Would you like to see David, Doctor?
Yes.
Very well. In our next session.
Você sabe alguma coisa sobre coisa de papel?
A paper spike is an odd thing to use as a weapon. I suppose if it went directly into the heart, it might work. Or through his eye, or perhaps through the ear into his brain.
Caralho.
Or was it just a frenzied, bloody mess of a murder? Do you know, Doctor?
Você então estava mentindo sobre ver o professor Dekker fora das sessões?
How astute, Doctor. Yes, I did say I hadn't seen Dr. Dekker outside of our sessions. That wasn't a lie. Our trip to the lake house was made during a session.
Tá bom. Você conversou com a garota no
I didn't speak to her this time. Something about her made me feel uneasy. I just watched her from the bedroom window. She'd caught a fish. She was holding it in her hands.
O que a garota fez com o peixe?
I wasn't close enough to see, but for all intents and purposes, it looked as if the fish bit her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a fish alive.
Eu gosto dela, mas ela é muito creepy. Como é possível David ser trago de volta à vida?
You tell me. What could possibly explain that?
Você está mentindo sobre David estar vivo?
If David doesn't exist, then that means that I really did kill him. He really is buried, and I really should be going to prison for a very long time. That just doesn't seem right to me. It's more probable that I reanimated him under Dr. Dekker's guidance.
Que mulher louca. Você pode estar vendo o fantasma de David?
I assure you, David is not a ghost. I've touched him.
Ok. David não é mais humano?
Since I brought him back, I felt that there was something different about him. Something not quite right. I think it's his brain. But how ludicrous that you can bring someone back in the first place. It's like that book, Pet Cemetery. Funnily enough, he does
Cemitério
smell hurt,
Maldito.
but that's because he spends most of his time out hunting.
Ok. Acho que por enquanto é só... Tá. Deixa eu só dar um hint aqui. Não, mas isso aqui... Vou perguntar. Use a stick knife. Ela falou que era a arma mais próxima.
The steak knife was the closest, sharpest weapon I could lay my hands on.
Aham.
I didn't really have much time to think about it.
Não faria sentido. Beleza. Ele falou que o Bryce, né? Você enterrou o David Castleford?
I'm actually a classically trained pallbearer. There are a lot of health and safety considerations. Not everybody can do it. Well, properly at least. Occasionally I step in if the funeral director is short-shouldered. I do remember her face. She wasn't upset in the usual way. She seemed agitated. Her husband must have been a giant. The coffin was so heavy. I remember because aft port side sprained his ankle. That and he wasn't lifting correctly.
Tá, então ele realmente estava no funeral. Claire pediu para que você fizesse alguma coisa com o corpo do David.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Doctor. I saw Claire Castleford's husband in the coffin myself before carrying him to the grave. He is in the ground. I'm sure it wouldn't take much for the police to get an order to have him exhumed. Just make sure it's done on Tuesday morning when I'm off.
Tá. Então, tá falando uma coisa. Que o corpo do cara tá embaixo da coisa. Como que você está hoje?
I've been thinking about our last session, and I just wanted you to know that I'm not a bad person. I know taking naked photographs is wrong, but you don't know what it's like until you face the same temptation. I'm assuming you don't know what it's like. Do you have an extra hour, Doctor?
No.
Thank God for that. There's someone else in my hour. A hooded figure, watching me and following me. I followed it too.
Alguém está seguindo ele? Quem é essa pessoa encruzada?
I don't know who it is. My initial thought was that it was you. That I told you about my affliction and somehow you'd got it too. Now I think maybe it's the military or some organization that wants to use the hour themselves. Maybe it's Dr. Dekker risen from the dead. I need to talk to you about him.
Tá. O que você tem que me falar dele? Do Dr. Dekker. Pra onde você seguiu essa figura encapuzada?
Whatever it is that's following me, it doesn't want to catch me yet. If I move towards it, it runs away. And when I follow it past temptations. A bar brawl, an open till, an open bedroom window. Like, it's testing me.
Tá, ele tá testando ela. Me fale sobre a janela aberta.
I looked in. Watching other people is somehow built into our genes, Doctor. There was an old woman in bed. I went inside. Her bedcovers were smoking. I think she'd fallen asleep holding a cigarette. I took the covers and put them in the bath. She'd have died otherwise. And no, I didn't take any pictures. I did nothing. I'm not stealing anymore.
Tá. Me conte sobre a briga num bar.
Brawl up.
Por que os militares estariam o seguindo?
I'm surprised I haven't been approached earlier. I mean, my skills in the military. Special ops would be a breeze, wouldn't it? Waltz in past everyone during the midnight hour. Get whatever you want and return to friendly soil. It also makes me think that they might already know all of that. and that they want to get rid of me in case I tell anyone else. Would you do something for me if they get me?
O quê?
Would you tell Jessica I love her? She didn't really know me that well, but I did love her. And also, there's a hard drive in the bottom drawer of my drinks cabinet. Please destroy it. Please, don't look at it.
Certo. O que você pode me
I
dizer sobre...
spied on Dr. Dekker not long before he was murdered. I'm not sure I should tell you what I saw in his basement.
A Iris, né? O que você viu no basement, no porão do Dr. Dekker?
I'd been feeling uneasy with Dr. Dekker for some time. I mentioned how he'd changed before. So I began spying on him at home. One night, the basement door was open, and Dekker was returning upstairs. I skipped past him, and there she was, a girl. It was difficult to tell. It was dark, and she was chained.
Chained? Ela tava diferente? Como? Ah, chained. Desculpa, presa.
I removed the chains, dressed her, and sat her in the police station. There's no evidence, though. No evidence of what he'd done. But she was free. I saved her. I'm not evil. I destroyed evil.
Tá. Ok.
Dr. Dekker frequently used that paper spike on his desk as an example. I'm sure he did it with the other patients too. He'd make me look at it, touch the point to see how sharp it was. He'd tell me that because I think it's sharp, it will hurt me. But if I thought it was nothing, it could pass right through my hand.
Estranho. Tá. Você viu Jessica novamente?
Jessica is a beautiful woman. I've not spied on her since the incident we talked about. I have real feelings for her, Doctor. We've never connected.
Ok. Como está o seu trabalho?
I put my hand through a rusty nail at work today. It hurt like hell and bled like I'd been shot. I closed my eyes and thought, this isn't happening. The nail is just a worm, and it will wriggle through me. When I looked back, can you guess what I saw? When I looked back at my hand, it was healed. Look, see?
Como sua mão sarou?
My hand had healed. The nail had become a worm and was wriggling in my hand. A little miracle. Like magic.
Estranho. Você acha que mágica curou sua mão?
I shouldn't really say miracle or magic. They're words that Dr. Dekker used when he tried to get you to think things and make them real. But do you think it's real, Doctor? That magic is real?
Não.
Then so it isn't. I envy you, Doctor. I wish I could be so sure. I find using nautical terms to describe the position of pallbearers fitting. Plus, most of them are 3 sheets to the wind. You know, drunk.
Ok. Talvez você deveria conversar
Thank
com
you,
ele.
Doctor. Thank you. It's nice you think I'm capable of such basic interaction with females. But I'm still in awe of her, really. I will think about it, though.
Ok. Vamos conversar com outra pessoa. Quem é esse professor Warwick? Quem é você?
Professor Warwick, I'm a physicist. Where's Dr. Dekker?
Onde está o Dr. Dekker? Também não sei. Dekker está
Is he
morto.
really? Actually dead? Not a worthy adversary after all, then.
Adversário? Dekker era o seu adversário?
Dr. Dekker challenged me. He tried to use my theories against me. Quantum theories.
Ele usava as teorias quânticas contra ele. Que teorias?
Do you really want to know? Dekker's eyes used to glaze over whenever we talked about that. He didn't believe in quantum physics. As if it's something that you can optionally believe in. Well, it started with an experiment.
O cara tá bebendo, velho. Que experimento?
Have you heard of quantum suicide, Doctor?
Não. O que é isso? Não, eu nunca ouvi sobre suicídio quântico.
Quantum suicide is a thought experiment that tries to explain the many worlds theory. You're looking at me blankly. I can see that you don't understand. I knew you wouldn't. Alternate universes. Essentially, if I were to shoot myself, then in some alternate universe, I'd still be alive. Now imagine if I could actually choose that universe. I'm taking a product off a supermarket shelf. Well, I simply applied that logic to something different.
Entendi. O que você aplicou essa lógica?
Gambling.
Ah,
I set up an experiment whereby I would visit a casino and place a very large bet at the roulette table. Now, I would always bet on odd. Now, the results of this particular experiment were mundane. I won as many times as you would expect according to the laws of probability. But then, I changed a parameter.
tá. Ele usava em jogos de azar, né? Por que jogos de azar?
Why not gambling? My wife Vanessa left me for a neurosurgeon. She emptied our entire combined wealth into her barrister's wallet. I needed more money. Physics provided me with a solution.
Ok. Que parâmetros você mudou?
Quantum suicide required a loss of life to make it a realistic thought experiment. So I simply upped the stakes. Every time I bet on odd, I would place everything I had on that one spin of the wheel, and it worked. For a while.
Por que o experimento parou de funcionar?
Dr. Dekker killed it, and I can't get it back.
Por quê? Que Detor matou?
My theory, quantum gambling. If the stakes are high enough, you will win every time by simply shifting your consciousness into that branch that wins. It's tricky, but it can be done. Dr. Dekker didn't like that. He saw me becoming rich and powerful, and he hated that. That's why he proffered the hangman's paradox.
Paradoxo do... Que é o paradoxo?
Well, imagine a judge sentences you to death. Now, it will be Monday or Tuesday next week. But it will be a surprise. Well, which day do you think you'll be executed? Well, it can't be Tuesday, because if you're still alive on Monday at midnight, then you know you'll be executed on Tuesday, so it won't be a surprise. Conversely, it can't be Monday either, because Well, you'll be expecting it to be Monday by deduction. Hence,
A paradoxo. Entendi.
Dr. Dekker tricked me.
Como o doutor
He told me that sometime in the future I would lose a bet, that I would lose all of my money. Now, this didn't seem likely because I had quantum gambling on my side and it was working. But he unnerved me. He made me doubt myself. And then it happened. Recently, I lost everything that I'd managed to build up since Vanessa left me.
Entendi. Por que o doutor odiaria você por se tornar rico e poderoso?
Honestly? Well, I think he feared quantum physics. He didn't like things being explained in terms of science. Almost as if he'd have preferred chaos.
Ele preferia caos. Me conte um pouco sobre a sua
We were
esposa.
married for 14 years, 7 months and 3 days. Vanessa couldn't have children, at least that's what she told me. She grounded me in reality. I'm not complaining. It's probably what I needed.
Ok.
Part of me always thought that one day I'd achieve immortality through science. It wasn't to be, though.
Muita água. Te irritava não ter filhos?
Well, yes, it bothered me, especially now that I find out that she's pregnant. Oh, no, it wasn't a rocket scientist that was required, but a brain surgeon, it seems. I have considered putting that neurosurgeon onto his darkest timeline. But I'm not a killer, it would seem.
Tá. O que você estava fazendo na noite de São Valentino?
I was at a fundraiser for a charity called Mindstretch Outreach. Don't know how I got roped into that, I can't remember. But it was full of very clever children with bizarre outlooks on life. And
Não é a...
it was Jaya who asked me to go.
Ah! Interessante. Como você conhece Jaya?
Oh, she's Dr. Dekker's lovely assistant. I imagine she's your lovely assistant now. Yeah, she always smiles and makes me a cup of tea before a session. Smile. Which reminds me, my session. Can we talk about my problem now?
Interessante. Que é Mindstretch Outreach?
It's full of poor kids with very capable minds. I did give them a talk on quantum tunneling once, and they loved it.
Ok.
I'm sure it'll put together on the table for any of them, though.
Ok.
Oh, you're going to have to Google that, Doctor, I'm afraid. I'm not a walking Wikipedia. I'd love to tell you, but I am paying you by the hour. Maybe look up Schrodinger's cat whilst you're there.
Ok. Converse sobre o seu problema.
I'm not a gambler, Doctor. I'm a scientist. I need more money. It's true I've run out of money for my research. An opportunity has arisen.
Uma oportunidade apareceu. Que pesquisa?
Quantum gambling. It's a pet project. It's got nothing to do with work. But if I don't have significant amounts of money to lose, then there won't be enough jeopardy for the experiment to work.
Ok. Que a oportunidade cresceu.
A very wealthy group of individuals offered to pay me a very large sum of money if I attend their next private soiree. They don't want a talk or anything like that. They want a practical demonstration.
Ok. Vamos ver aqui. Que demonstração prática.
They'll pay me £1 million if I can successfully survive 6 rounds of Russian roulette. Now, I am worried because of what Dr. Dekker said, but, well, can't help but thinking that the stakes are so high I can't possibly...
Caralho, ele quer tentar...
What do you think, Doctor? Should I take them up on their offer? No. No, I suppose you're right. In a darker timeline, you probably said yes and I'm dead now. I earn good money where I work. How do I stop losing it?
Pra quem você trabalha?
The Ministry of Defense, of course. Guns aren't going to win the next war. Quantum physics is.
Ok, ele trabalha para o Ministro da Defesa.
I take your point, But I suppose to decide whether to continue gambling or to stop gambling is a gamble within itself, isn't it?
Aham.
Well, my time is up. Will we be having another session or... No, don't answer that. It'll turn you into a gambler like me. Infectious. Isn't it?
Interessante, gostei. Gostei. Mas, pessoas, vou parar por aqui. Espero que vocês tenham gostado de mais um episódio deste joguinho interessantíssimo, de pontas soltas que os personagens... É interessante que o Dr. Dekker achava que havia relação, um micro-universo entre todos os personagens. E o jogo ele vai te jogando nessa vibe. E eu realmente acredito que possa existir uma relação entre eles. Ainda não sei até qual nível. Mas é isso. Vou deixar esse vídeo por aqui. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Beleza? Valeu. Falou!